TRAVON Smith with the real estate experience right here from a beautiful location. And today I'm really excited. I didn't even know this interview was going to get a chance to happen. I talked to his team. They got a little bit of time on his hands, so we got 15 minutes with the mayor-elect, Mr. Craig Greiwe. How you doing today?
Good. Well, former mayoral candidate, not mayor-elect by any stretch.
Hey, we still
candidate.
pay the respects, though. I mean, it's a big deal, regardless. The current or our former mayor elect, you had a chance to do some things that a lot of people don't get a chance to do. So if you can, go ahead and introduce yourself, so we can, get straight into it.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Craig Greiwe. I was formerly a mayoral candidate, not mayoral elect. We don't have one of those yet.
Okay.
I ran for mayor of LA this last year, but focused critically leading up into the primary on the issues that affect Angelenos the most, right? Which is not just crime and homelessness, but affordability, the cost of living, the cost of housing, and what it means to build a city that people can actually afford to live in and want to live, work, and play in. And so even after now that the primary is over and Karen Bass and Rick Caruso are running against each other for the runoff in November, the question that should be on everybody's mind is, how is that going to impact me, and what can my next mayor do about the cost of living in this city, affordability? And so I am going to be singing about that for the next 6 months.
And that's something that's definitely needed. We need all the, the angels on our side in Los Angeles, as far as, because housing is pretty much unaffordable for the average person. I believe the statistic is what mortgage sales is like $1 million to purchase a home, or close, the average median or something like that. And I mean, just $1 million is a lot of money when we go into the numbers as far as what we need to be making per month, our jobs, our salaries and stuff. Can you talk about some things like that you had on your list as far as the programs or things that you were working on, or are still working on?
Yeah, for sure. Even though I'm no longer a candidate running for mayor, I am still working on these programs with every single person that we can talk to and find about this, which is the fact that you're right. It is impossible for anyone to buy a home in the city. Heck, it's impossible for anyone to rent a home in the city. The statistics from McKinsey show that rent is unaffordable for more than 70% of Angelenos. And at the same time, the city is spending, it's not just the cost to buy a home, the city itself is spending $1 million a unit in construction costs, while you and everyone else and all of us are struggling to make it in this city. It's this crazy lunacy world that we live in, where the city is spending billions of dollars a year to backdoor the largest public housing projects in America, when instead it could be building and fostering programs that don't require that allow us to build more affordable cities. So I was focused on increasing capacity while preserving the character and community of every neighborhood. There's no reason to price anyone out of their neighborhood. There's no reason to force anyone out of where they live. We can build at the same time ethically and responsibly. And there were two key programs in doing that. The first is transforming every latent industrial zone in Los Angeles into permitted for mixed use development. What that means is there's all kinds of empty lots that are meant for factories that no longer have factories, because we don't have that many factories in the city of Los Angeles. Instead, converting those empty lots that were meant for manufacturing into developments that have apartments and offices and stores increases our capacity and creates these centers of vibrancy in communities without disturbing those communities, that increases our capacity across the city. If we transformed every latent industrial zone across the city, we'd have more than 1 million units of extra capacity, which would give us all a chance to restore affordability. Just 500,000 more units makes this an affordable place where people can afford to buy their own homes, where they can afford rent. So one was the transformation of latent industrial zones. The second was focusing on transit corridors and building higher density where it makes sense. We do not want to rip up single family home neighborhoods that you or your parents or your grandparents or your relatives live in. Like, that's unconscionable, and we don't need to do that. Instead, there's no reason that what we call touch zoning. If a building is touching Sunset Boulevard, there's no reason it shouldn't be able to go up to 15 stories while preserving the neighborhoods behind it. On Beverly and Melrose, a little lower, 6 to 8 stories, right? On Ventura, 12 stories, right? Finding these thoroughfares that are going to create where you have office buildings and condos and you've got street level retail, again, a vibrancy to the city life. Those two simple policy solutions together bring more than 1.5 million units online. And what happens when you bring 1.5 million units online over the next 10 years is that the cost of living as a percentage of your income goes down. My pledge, which remains true, is that we can get this place to where you don't have to spend more than 30% of your income on rent or mortgage.
If you're just tuning in, it's the Real Estate Experience. We're talking to the one and only. I apologize. I said earlier, Mayor-elect. It's former mayor candidate, Craig Greiwe. Like I said, I couldn't wait to get you on the show to talk to you a little bit more about, and you're going into a lot of in-depth information that a lot of people may not understand or get, but it's important for us to understand this. And my next question is, it seems like you have a formula or have at least an idea about a formula that could possibly work. Why isn't this something that they implement into the, to the programs and I understand that's why you were running to implement it. So number one is, why isn't there someone already implementing this or trying to implement it? And number two is, are you getting your message through, and are you able to help some of these future candidates or elects with some of the information you're providing?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is we haven't addressed this because up until now, our city leadership has only been intent on using their office as a personal stepping stone to something else. So the goal of being mayor, if you were Eric Garcetti or anyone before that, wasn't to be a good mayor. It was, how do I rock the boat as little as possible so that I can go be governor or senator? And that's a recipe for disaster, because then they didn't want to do anything that was going to upset anyone. They didn't want to upset the unions. They didn't want to upset the far left. They didn't want to upset centrists. And it was just, how few people can I disturb? Well, the answer is that meant that they wouldn't look at concrete solutions. Now, everyone should be on board with building a more affordable city that preserves our communities and our neighborhoods, but it takes political willpower. Now, when we move forward now and look forward, we've reached such a crisis point where people are fleeing this city. Los Angeles lost population for the first time in its history last year, which is a death sentence for a city, that we must make these decisions. Now, we happen to be at a point where crime and homelessness dominate the conversation because they're in front of us every day. And because the media narratives want them to dominate the conversation. But the reality is, what dominates the conversation is what dominates the conversation for you, for me, for everyone listening, is kitchen table issues. Can you even afford to have a kitchen table these days? Yeah. Right? Like that is the real thing. And so, yes, I am. And there are certain candidates that are receptive to that messaging across the city, who understand that the first issue isn't just getting people off the street. It isn't just feeling safe. It is the fact that people cannot afford to live in this city. And that there are lots of candidates across the spectrum, and I am working every day that we bring these issues and this research to these candidates, that they have the programs in their hands, that they have the political willpower, that we elect candidates with the political willpower, with the strength of character to move forward, and that we hold their feet to the fire to do so.
And like I said, this is, I've had a chance to talk to you a couple of times. I love our conversations. I peekaboo in, if I may say, when you're talking to other people, and it's like you're genuine. You have a great understanding of of the city of Los Angeles and how things are built from the bottom up, if I may say, the foundation. What are some things that are number one? Are you gonna run again? You're gonna run again somewhere. Because you have too much knowledge, and you have the right want, as far as helping people. Are you going to run again at some time in the future for something? You have to.
I listen. I appreciate the nature of public service.
Okay.
This city is wildly corrupt. Running against that corrupt system was a lot. I think I'm going to take
That,
and focus.
I asked that because the reason why is because I was leading to this one. What are some things? Because I'm gonna cut you off. I apologize.
Yeah.
What are some things that you're gonna try to implement the next time that you kind of found out this time that you ran into maybe some brick walls or some obstacles and things like that? Do you have a game plan for next time, whenever next time is?
Right now, I am focused on mobilizing the private sector to
Okay.
bring about these changes and to drive candidates in office who are going to bring about these changes. If I were to ever run again, the answer is that we make it far too hard for me or anyone who wants to do good in this city or in this country to run. This is how we end up with idiots in office, right? Is because only those people are stupid enough to go through the gauntlet of what it takes to run. There are lots of things that we can do that would make this easier. We need an actual newspaper. The LA Times is a pathetic excuse for a paper of record. We need democracy vouchers, which is a program that allows everyday people to donate to candidates of their choice using public funds, right? We need to remove the power of incumbency. We need a charter reform in this city that makes this so that it's not just 15 little wizards on a city council who are governing with billions of dollars. I mean, the reality is over the last 10 years, the city's budget has increased by 50%. That means you and everyone who's listening is paying 50% more out of pocket to the city. And what have you gotten for that?
Nothing.
And so we've got to engage in real governance reforms, charter reforms in the city that are going to yank power away from these corrupt individuals, that make it possible for real people, whether it's me or anyone else, to run for office and to bring real change. And that's where my focus is going to be, from the private sector. From I like everybody else, I got bills to pay, and running for office.
We understand.
And so from the private sector, I'm going to focus on reforming this city and its governance, and returning to a nonprofit I created, Rise Together, at risetogether.la. If people want to visit it online, we're focused on common ground, common sense, and real reform to this city.
Hey, the real estate experience, TRAVON Smith right here with the former mayor candidate Craig Greiwe. It's definitely a pleasure talking to you. I would love to continue this conversation at the minimum once a month. I want to pick your brain. I want to understand what's going on with the city of Los Angeles. I want people to have an ability to check in and hear some of this conversation instead of just seeing everything from the news or reading it into newspapers, etc. Where's people can follow you at and keep up and besides here, where can they follow you at and just know your whereabouts and then what's going on?
I appreciate that. I would love to come back anytime. So you can always count on me. We'll always make time for this. I love these types of conversations. They make me enthusiastic about the future of the city. People can sign up at risetogether.la, which is a website to join the movement. You can follow me on social media at The World, according to Craig, The World at Craig, on Instagram, and get more information there. So I welcome all the comments, all the questions. I'm here for it, and I'm here to check in all the time, because the answer is these conversations are what move the city forward. It's not people knocking on doors. It's not people running for office. It's these types of conversations and people having these conversations that's going to move the city forward.
And Craig, I super appreciate you, man, and I can't wait to check in with you again. Shout out to our guy Ty. He always keeps the world moving. From a small little office in Calabasas. So thank you again, and I can't wait to talk to you. And keep us updated anytime you need to talk. But I'll be reaching out to you and your team as well.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me on, and absolutely, let's talk again soon.
All right, man. Have a great day. Have a great week.
You too. And so when I declared my candidacy for mayor late last year, I was the only candidate to declare with concrete, written, published, and vetted plans in homelessness, affordability, crime, and corruption. Since then, we've added veterans, working families, post-COVID recovery. No other candidate has a plan for post-COVID recovery. It's been 2.5 years, guys. They've had plenty of notice. Schools and education, every aspect, business and innovation, cannabis, everything you can think of. I'm a nerd at heart, so I relish those plans. So we're just going to talk really briefly about 4 of them, the 4 that are on everybody's mind.